Not all paths are straight. Some twist deep into the unknown. Hey, I'm Amanda Joy, and every Thursday, a new episode of Down the Crooked Path beckons. Paranormal stories, strange encounters, and folklore that lingers long after dark. So take a deep breath, grab your flashlight, or let the mysteries guide your steps. Down the Crooked Path, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Research and recording of Canadian Creepies happens on the shared land and traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. A key treaty governing this territory is the Dish with One Spoon Agreement. This treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We all share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, meaning we must take care of the land and the creatures we share in it. Canadian Creepies covers true crime, dark history, and disturbing events. Some episodes may include graphic descriptions or sensitive subject matter. We do our best to handle every story with care and respect for those affected. That said, we sometimes use humor and sarcasm as a way to process heavy content, never to disrespect victims, survivors, or their families. Listener discretion is advised. We want to be transparent with our listeners. Canadian Creepies is currently a non-profit project. We don't make any money from the podcast. However, any revenue that is generated from this series will be donated entirely to payyourrent.ca. The only ad you'll hear in this series will be a message about payyourrent.ca itself. Payyourrent.ca is an Indigenous-led initiative that calls on settlers and non-Indigenous people in Canada to pay voluntary ongoing contributions, or rent, to the Indigenous nations whose lands they live on. The platform helps direct funds to specific Indigenous communities and organizations supporting sovereignty, self-determination, and vital community needs. We believe it's one small way to move beyond words toward meaningful action. Welcome back to our residential school series, Erasure, Resistance, and Reckoning, here on Canadian Creepies. I'm Valerie.
And I'm Amanda.
This is episode 4, The Road to Reckoning. Today we're looking at what happened when the residential schools finally began to close and why that happened.
We will talk about the timeline of the closures from the 1960s to the 1990s and why ending the system wasn't as simple as just shutting the doors.
We're also going to talk about the Sixties Scoop, when even as schools were closing, Indigenous children were still being taken from their families, just through a different system.
And we'll look at the long fight for justice, the legal battles, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and how survivors and advocates forced governments and churches to confront their roles. And even when those institutions tried not to.
We know these are difficult topics. We're approaching them with care and respect, recognizing that for many, and not even just many, for all, these aren't just stories, they're lived experiences.
As settlers, our responsibility is to listen, to learn, and to amplify the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then.
So let's begin episode 4, The Road to Reckoning. So I'm going to go through the overall timeline of the schools closing, so when and why they shut down. And they started shutting down in the 1960s, as we previously discussed, and the final one didn't shut down until 1996. Residential schools in Canada began closing gradually in the late 1950s, with the process continuing unevenly until the 1990s. The last federally funded residential school, Gordon Indian Residential School in Punitchie, Saskatchewan, closed in 1996. And for even more context, a friend of mine, this is like just me personally, a friend of mine whose mom is in early childhood development did a placement at a residential school.
That's crazy.
Absolutely bananas. Yeah, well, it's a coworker's sister, and then they started working with us, she told me. And I was like, that's wild.
It really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. It's just one generation.
I was 10 when the last school closed.
Yeah. And I was 6. Yeah.
Right?
Wow. This long phase out was not the result of a single moment of reckoning, but rather the result of increasing Indigenous resistance, changing political pressures, and shifts in public education policy, often more bureaucratic than compassionate. So why did the schools start closing? Firstly, it was because of Indigenous resistance and advocacy. By the 1960s, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities were pushing back, legally, politically, and through direct advocacy. Survivors began to speak out publicly about abuse, neglect, and cultural erasure. A quote from Phil Fontaine, who is a former National Chief of Assembly of First Nations, says, "We began to tell our stories, not just to share the pain, but to reclaim power. The system depended on our silence." And that's true of oppression. Oppression depends on people's silence. Early forms of Indigenous political organizing, such as the formation of National Indian Brotherhood, now the Assembly of First Nations, in 1968, pressured the government to end assimilationist education models. So basically the model of the residential school. As well, Phil Fontaine publicly disclosed his abuse at a residential school in the early 1990s. The second reason the school started closing was because there was shifting in government policy. In 1969, the Statement of Government of Canada on Indian Policy, commonly called the White Paper. Wow.
Of course.
Wow. They just really got to throw those microaggressions in there, eh? Like let's put a microaggression into like a law,
right?
Into legislation. So the White Paper recommended ending the Indian Act and assimilation programs, including residential schools. While the White Paper was met with fierce opposition and ultimately withdrawn, it marked a significant shift in official language. The federal government no longer wished to administer schools directly. So the White Paper is the reason that the federal government is no longer in charge of schools in general, or just residential schools. I wonder if that's why the DS now it's regional.
Yeah.
That's why it's broken down. That's why schools are done regionally now.
And Catholic was Catholic always separate? Catholic was always separate, right?
Catholic was always separate.
I would imagine Catholic was always separate.
But hey, if Catholic gets to have a separate school board, I think every other religion should have their own school board.
Concur.
Yeah. Or no religious school boards at all.
I think that one's perfect.
But I'm just saying, you can't just have the Catholic Christian school board and not the Muslim school board.
Yeah.
Not the Buddhist school board, not the Jewish school board.
Especially, like, I remember Justin Trudeau being like, oh, we're a melting pot. Yeah. Really?
Well, what I found out about people is the best way we figure out how to do stuff is just by like figuring out how to do it. And this is the first time, I think I've said this on this podcast before, but this is the first time, quite literally, on the history of this planet where we have had the connectivity and the ability and the capacity to have so many people from so many different cultures living in one place. That's fucking fantastic. That's beautiful. We can meet so many cultures at one time just going to like Toronto.
I think not even like just living together. Like we have the capability to talk to somebody in China right now. Like just go online and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
How you doing?
I ordered my Sunny Angels. I got my Sunny Angels. We're getting derailed here.
I love
But yes, it's like, so we should really all, we can
learn from each other now.
We can learn from each other. And we should be learning from each other. It's not every man for himself. It's not, we got to get rid of that old, me and mine.
Yeah.
Start from me and mine.
Yeah.
We tangented.
And like, as a wedding photographer, do you know how many those different cultural weddings that I do that aren't like your traditional Catholic, Christian, non-denominational, they're some of the most beautiful events
I bet
that I have ever been to.
I bet. Just like even the energy in there. It's a totally different,
very loving and very
energy.
accepting.
Yeah. It's not
rigid.
Not like, together forever now.
And
don't fuck it up.
It's not selfish.
Don't fuck it up.
Like the whole mentality of weddings now is like, it's my day. It's not even
my day.
Yeah, it's not even synonymous with what marriage is supposed to represent.
Yeah, which is like
mostly.
a partnership.
Yeah, and
two
it's
of you
coming together of two families, and now it's this
two
is
families too.
Yeah, and it's not like that anymore.
No,
I've witnessed this first. I'd rather do like other cultural weddings because they're just so much more accepting. Even like the way they treat their vendors.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back on track here. So the federal government no longer wished to administer schools directly. So we think that is sort of when it started. I'm not going to speculate. Instead, the government, just leave that. I'm going to leave that loose-ended for you. Instead, the government began gradually transferring. The thing is if I just keep reading what I've researched, the questions will be answered.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
I got ahead of myself, and that whole getting ahead of ourselves tangented when the question was answered in the next paragraph. So instead, the government began gradually transferring educational control to provincial school systems.
I love you.
And band councils, though often without sufficient support or funding. Well, that's still true.
Yeah.
That's still true. So fucking figure it out. Residential schooling was no longer cost effective. Oh, it wasn't?
Again, everything the government does is
you were
about
starving them.
Money. Yeah. Where was the money going? It wasn't going to the food.
My God.
Or the clothing. Or making sure the buildings were warm and sound structured.
Or sensitivity training. There was none of that.
I feel like there's still none of that really going on.
There isn't. Okay, so a quote from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's final report says, residential schooling was no longer cost effective and assimilation could continue more subtly through provincial schools.
Subtly.
I'm glad they picked up on that. The third reason the schools started closing was because there was mounting public awareness and outrage. By the 1970s and 80s, investigative journalism, survivor testimonies, and human rights reports began surfacing. Hell yeah, they did.
I think they did. I think that's why the only reason, like, they're making it about the money, but as we just mentioned, like,
had they not been caught, they would still be doing this.
That's exactly it. They were like, too messy, not us, pass the buck. It's because of money.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, it's just, bleh. That's how I feel. Bleh. Human rights reports began surfacing. Oh, what I wanted to say was the bravery, the resilience, and the courage of the survivors and witnesses, or any Indigenous folks who came out for this, is just like the amount of strength that each of these people would have had to have is just insane, and I just want to acknowledge that.
That's why movements like that are so powerful. If you remain silent, that goes right back into the oppression works with silence.
Yeah, if they would have stayed silent, we wouldn't know.
Yep.
And even though they are being loud, like, a lot of people, like, not even don't know about this, but also are deniers of the residential school system.
Fuck, there are still people who deny that the Holocaust happened.
Bizarre. I mean, it's a free country, I suppose.
I mean, there are people who believe the earth is flat.
You can think what you want, and I'm not going to persecute you.
Dinosaurs didn't exist.
As more Canadians learned about physical abuse, sexual violence, forced starvation, and cultural genocide, public tolerance began to erode slowly. Of course, it took a while. Took a bit.
Subtly.
Took us a little bit. Yeah, subtly. Subtly and slowly. It's like, instead of like cannabis is low and slow. It's like with with the closing of residential schools, they were like subtly and slowly. In 1986, the United Church of Canada issued a formal apology for its role in residential schools. I'm not saying thank you to them. Other churches followed, though most official apologies from churches and the federal government wouldn't come until decades later.
Here's the thing about apologies. I don't owe you forgiveness.
No. An apology is for you.
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not apologizing to make me feel better. You're apologizing because you got caught.
Yeah. 100%.
And I don't have to accept it. I don't owe you that.
Nope.
I don't owe you forgiveness.
Nope.
Take the apology and stuff it.
Take the apology and stuff it. So here are some examples of the closing of some specific schools. So there was Blue Quills Residential School in Alberta. In 1970, it became the first residential school to be transferred to Indigenous control after community occupation and protest, which we have spoken about this one.
Yeah.
It later became the Blue Quills University, an Indigenous owned and operated institution. When it comes to this stuff, I don't mind repeating myself a little bit because it's a podcast. I know you guys are busy while you're doing this. You're driving, you're working, you're folding laundry, you're getting ready, whatever you're doing.
I was listening to one last night while making dinner, and halfway through it, I was like...
You're cooking a meal.
I was like, I have no idea what has been said for the last 20 minutes. I need to restart this.
There was also St. Mary's Residential School in Mission, BC. It closed in 1984, but survivors had to fight for decades to have their experiences publicly acknowledged. And then there was Gordon Residential School in Saskatchewan. It was the last federally operated school. It closed in 1996. Survivors from Gordon were some of the first to file lawsuits over abuse, helping pave the way for broader class action.
I was 10.
You were 10. I was 6.
Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of when people were like, when they talk about how far women's rights have come as well.
They haven't. What do you mean?
They really
just got
haven't.
the right to vote in the 60s.
Bank accounts?
What are you talking about?
We weren't allowed to have our own bank accounts. Spousal abuse.
And tubes tied? Can we do that?
No. You still need your husband's consent. And even then, they will only give it to you. They prefer you to have 2 children already, and preferably 1 male and 1 female.
Yep.
And even in some cases, if your husband or a significant other has signed off, well, what if you guys divorce?
What if you divorce and you want another one?
And your imaginary future husband may want children.
So they're saving they don't let us have the rights to our reproductive. So they don't
sound like me.
I'm stopping. Yeah, but they don't give us, we don't have say over our bodies, just in case we made a man.
Dead bodies have more autonomy than women and these individuals during this time.
Yeah.
Still.
So what took so long? Despite growing awareness and Indigenous resistance, many schools remained open for decades. Because churches still operated them and resisted relinquishing control. I don't mind if you go to church. I don't mind if you're religious. I'm a spiritual person myself. I believe in like something. But question people in positions of power over you always. I don't care what organization you are a part of. Question people who are in charge of lots of money. You should always question someone who has lots of money. Always. Always. Like,
I always do this with nonprofits, especially.
Follow the money.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, 86% of every dollar goes into the pockets of the CEOs of that company.
Yeah.
So
Why?
If you make more money than the average person through your nonprofit, you're not a nonprofit.
It's like there's no ethical way to become a billionaire, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
Because generational wealth isn't ethical.
No.
It's not ethical. It's not ethical at all. You know what else isn't ethical? The monarchy.
Yeah.
Straight up. Okay. The federal government delayed so the churches operated and resisted relinquishing control. The federal government delayed responsibility and often denied the extent of abuse. Because classic abuser. You should always think of the government as like an abusive boyfriend that you're in just like a toxic relationship with.
You made me do it to you.
Yeah, you made me do this to you. But you can always call his mom.
Unless she sides
and those are
with
MPs
him.
or MPPs. Unless she sides with him. Then don't. Then you call somebody else's mom to talk to her.
The newspapers.
Yeah, you go above her head even. Funding models prioritize... We're just like inciting.
There's so much rage here.
We're just like inciting rebellion.
Subtle rage.
Okay, so funding models prioritize bureaucracy over justice. That as well. Question that. Question that. Making closures slow and uneven. Some families were left with no alternatives, forced to send children to the remaining institutions due to underfunded banned schools or provincial racism. So because Indigenous people hadn't, naturally or organically assimilated into, like British culture or Europe, British culture. So because there wasn't a natural fusion of cultures, there was racism. Racism was a natural byproduct of secluding people.
Because you're different.
Because they're different and letting stereotypes run wild in the media and wherever else.
That's still an issue today.
Still an issue. Absolutely. An anonymous survivor testimony from the Truth and Reconciliation Archives said, "It was like being slowly strangled. They didn't end the system in one stroke. They just let it fade quietly."
Damn.
Residential schools did not end with a clear apology or sudden moral awakening. They ended due to community resistance, legal challenges, and administrative shifts, often without justice. The system remained active into the mid-1990s within living memory and our lifetimes. Though the schools closed, their intergenerational impact did not. Many communities still deal with the fallout, trauma, loss of language, fractured identity, and mistrust of institutions.
I feel like there still isn't a moral awakening.
Still, absolutely. That's why we're doing this series.
Mm-hmm. So from residential schools to state seizures. As residential schools began to close in the 1960s, the Canadian government did not stop its practices of forcibly removing Indigenous children from their families.
The worst.
Instead, it shifted tactics from institutional assimilation through schools to systemic apprehension through the child welfare system. This era became known as the 60s Scoop, though it extended well beyond the 60s into the 1980s and beyond. Dr. Raven Sinclair, who is a member of the Cree community, a scholar and a 60s Scoop survivor, said, "The children welfare system became the new residential schools."
Wow. And I think we will likely do, just to interject for one moment, I think we will likely do like a whole other episode.
Yeah, because this
on
goes...
the 60 Scoop.
This goes deep.
Yeah, this is just this is just a little byproduct this is a byproduct. The 60 Scoop was a byproduct of the residential school system. That is definitely worth noting when it comes to discussing the history of residential schools and Indigenous peoples in Canada. However, the information here is not thorough.
And I think it's something that we need to...
It's something we're just touching on in this series, and we're going to explore further in the future.
And I think this is something, too, like people have heard of the residential schools. They know of the burials. They know of how Indigenous have been mistreated. But I think the 60s Scoop is something that is kind of less talked about. Like, it's less known.
Yes.
Especially because we don't teach it in our schools.
We don't.
It's not part of Canadian history courses, curriculums.
I love when we whisper little things like that. We hope you guys do too. Maybe let us know if you want us to do some like ASMR vids.
Oh.
So one will definitely be Sunny Angel and Foxy.
She loves her Sunny
Angels. I love them. They make me happy in my world of true crime.
They're so cute.
Okay.
So what was the 60s Scoops? So the 60s Scoop refers to a widespread practice, primarily during the 1960s to the mid-1980s. It was the apprehension of Indigenous children and placing them into non-Indigenous foster homes and adoptive families, often without the consent of the birth families and communities.
That's straight up somebody coming into your home, ripping your child out of your arms and saying, you are not a good parent, and then leaving.
Kidnapping.
under the guise of, whatever.
Protection.
Thank you.
It's for your own good.
Imagine somebody saying that to you as an adult who has birthed a child. Are you kidding? I'd be like, I'll show you your own good.
My foot up your ass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You come one step further in here. I mean, and I'm sure they did say that,
Yeah, there was, what parent would...
Nobody's just like, yeah, all right.
Okay,
like,
I
well,
see
he
your
was
point.
a little tough at bedtime tonight anyway, so off you go. Like, nobody was doing that.
So this term was coined by Patrick Johnson. He's the author of the 1983 report, Native Children and Child Welfare System, who noted that the provincial child welfare authorities had scooped children from reserves and rural communities with little or no warning.
That's a Canadian creepy. That's creepy.
That's terrifying.
That's awful.
So the scoop had obviously some very big impact. There was an estimated 20 to 25,000 Indigenous children who were taken during this period, though the true number is most likely higher.
Whoa! That's so many people. Like, listener, just, I'm calling you out right now. I know you're like, why are you saying that to me? Listener, take a look at the space that you are in right now. Take a look at it. And how many people do you think could fit in that space? And then multiply it by an infinite amount. And that's 20,000 to like visually 20 to 25,000 people. It's so many. That's like, you couldn't fit 20,000 people in a house.
That is probably more than all the schools, like the schools in Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Just take all of the kids out.
Bye.
Poof, gone.
See ya.
Not your kids no more.
Nope. Taking them.
That's insane.
Yeah. And these like white women were like, thank you so much. And then all their friends were like, oh, you're such a wonderful person for adopting this Indigenous child. Meanwhile, the kid's like,
you're going to give them such a good life.
You're going to give him such a good life. He had not a good life before, and now he has a great life. And he was like, I just want my mom and my dad.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's sad. So the children were placed predominantly in white families.
See?
From both Canada and abroad, notably the US, the UK, and Australia.
So they shipped them out of the country even.
Like that's slavery.
That's human trafficking.
That is.
That's human trafficking.
Siblings were often separated. Ties to family, language, culture, and identity were severed. Colleen Cardinal, who was a 60s Scoop survivor and advocate, said we didn't just lose our families, we lost who we were.
Understandably. I mean, what?
How, like, they talk all the time about how, broken families. What the hell do you think this was?
Yeah. Right.
And the psychological effects. This is what white people use in court all the time.
Yeah. The family has to stay together.
Okay. Look at our history.
It's so, and there's like also, I was listening to this podcast the other day, and it's like from the adoptee's perspective, and this woman who was a woman of color who had been adopted, and her mom told her that literally on the because adoption is an industry, follow the money. Adoption is an industry. An adoption is one of those really tricky ethical things as well.
Yeah.
Because the people who are it is, but okay, so we'll get into it a little bit. Okay, so like people who adopt, a lot of the time, let's say they have trauma, like if they have infertility issues or death of a child, and then they decide they want to adopt, they haven't worked through that trauma, and then they're being so praised. For raising this child, but they're also in this like trauma state and not giving the child maybe proper resources. Not in every case, obviously. But anyway, so this woman on this podcast, so she said, and the podcast was Kate and Ty Break It Down. She said that her mom literally wrote on the adoption application, "I want a peanut butter colored baby."
Peanut butter?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
a peanut butter colored
ordered it like
baby.
a catalog in Sears.
What is this?
Like
a fucking restaurant?
No, a peanut butter colored baby girl or something like that. And so that's a person of color being adopted into a white family, and now something that they're learning what happens in these circumstances is something called genetic mirroring. And the adoptee, oftentimes, if they're not around people who look like them, they can subconsciously start to try and make themselves look like the adoptive mother, which I think is an interesting thing, but also really would mess with the psychology,
especially as you started to grow and experience the world outside of the home life, like going to daycare and then going to elementary school, going to high school, and realizing
nobody looks like me,
or hey, maybe what I'm learning at home isn't what people who do look like me are experiencing and living. Who am I?
Yeah,
that would fuck with you too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Our little tangents. So the trauma from this mass removal was profound and lasting. Many children grew up believing that they were white.
But what did I just say?
Mm-hmm. Only discovering their Indigenous identity later in life. There were survivors who reported high rates of depression, substance abuse, suicide attempts, and identity confusion.
Yeah.
There was a disconnection from language, community, traditions, becoming a form of cultural genocide, echoing the goal of residential schools. This is an anonymous survivor's testimony from the ABC archives.
CBC.
ABC. I'm just going back to my childhood roots.
I like it.
Discussing children,
That's
fine. What this person said was, I was raised in a white Christian home, always Christian, where being Native was something to be ashamed of. I didn't meet another Indigenous person until I was 21.
Let's take a moment during this break to talk about something that matters. Something that doesn't get to be background noise. The Anishinaabe-Moan word, Ni-ki-na-gana, means we are all related, and we are. But relationship isn't just about words, it's about responsibility. Canadian author Naomi Klein once said, "It is not enough to say that we live on Indigenous land. We have to act as if we do." And one way to do that is by supporting Pay Your Rent, a grassroots mutual aid initiative that offers direct material support to Indigenous organizers across this land. It's not charity, it's rent. For those of us who aren't Indigenous to this place, it's a way to show up differently, to redistribute some of what's been taken. The Pay Your Rent Fund started as a one-time request for help in 2018 and grew into a nonprofit called Ni-ki-na-gana. Your monthly or one-time donation can help provide food, hygiene supplies, housing support, and resources for Indigenous-led resistance and community care. So if you've ever said, we're all related, ask yourself, are you being a good relative? Visit payyourrent.ca and find out more about how you can be part of something better. Now, back to this case. My goodness. And let's remember that just like a side note, now this person obviously didn't become a serial killer, but like Ted Bundy became a serial killer because like one of the reasons because of his confusion with his mom and his sister. Right, like because his sister was actually his mom, and they didn't tell him until he was, and it was like very. And that's one of the, and that's why he started killing.
Dad too.
Yeah, and that like people like that really messes with people. Mm-hmm. Have to give them the opportunity to know where they come from,
to be able to have the opportunity to even want to have that desire, to self-exploration, that internal work. Like let them figure out who they are.
Yeah,
and of course it was Christian. I have these very adverse feelings towards
you and Allie, both of you,
religious institutions. Well, like it goes back, like they just cherry pick so much.
Yes,
and it always,
and we know this.
The one thing I always go back to is if you've read the Bible, Judge not lest ye be judged. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, and all sins are created equal. So if you're judging somebody for being different or doing something you don't agree with, you are just as guilty as whatever guilt you are convicting them of. You are just as guilty.
Yeah.
And that doesn't play into their heads. Just a little anger there.
I love that.
So while residential schools were being shuttered, the Canadian child welfare system effectively replaced them in function. In 1951, amendments to the Indian Act allowed provincial governments to extend child welfare services to reserves. By the 1970s, Indigenous children made up 30 to 40% of all children in care, despite being less than 5% of the child population.
That's not right. That's not right.
That's an insanely skewed.
Right. I have an idea. Let's say even if, no, I'm not going to give the government any. I highly doubt any of those parents were actually in a place where their children needed to be removed from them.
Yeah.
And if they were in that place, how about we give them some resources and some help? And
right? I don't know.
That's crazy. I hear people want jobs. You know, it's crazy. We could employ people to help people.
Give them sufficient housing. But according to Doug Ford, get up off your asses and go to work.
Fuck Doug Ford. Yeah. I said it. He's a creep of the week every week.
Creep of the week every week. So using this format, it shifted it allowed Canada to claim progress. The schools are closing.
No, but we're still kidnapping your children.
Yes.
My lord.
While continuing assimilationist projects through different systems. They took us from our homes, called it care, took our language, called it education, took our land, called it development. And this is an expert from the 2018 Sixties Scoop protest sign in Toronto. That's a great sign.
That's a great sign.
Was this legal?
Probably.
Kind of not. In many cases, children were taken without legal grounds. Good guess. Social workers often interpreted poverty, overcrowding, traditional parenting as neglect, leading to removals that would not have occurred in white communities.
Yeah, because I bet, those white parents were... Mom was drinking her bottle of wine. Dad was drinking his case of beer.
Well, beating mom upside the head.
But fuck.
Yeah. Parents were not given due process, nor were Indigenous leaders consulted in most removals.
I hate that.
And what did the government do? Deny and delay.
Yeah.
The federal government denied wrongdoing for decades.
Of course they did.
Of course.
Had an ex-boyfriend who said to me, deny, deny, deny. And that's what the government did.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, so did he.
I love men.
No.
You can't see me, but I'm shaking my
we're
head.
both shaking our heads. No. We both have boyfriends. I hate the concept of men.
Yes.
And like the royal men,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are a few that can be trained.
Exactly.
That's not what you're expecting me to say.
No.
So survivors had to organize independently to sue the federal government for damages and recognition. It wasn't until 2017 that Canada issued a statement of apology for the 60s Scoop. A settlement was reached offering up $750 million in compensation to survivors, but many have spoken out about the limits of financial redress. Money, it doesn't return what we lost, our families, our stories, our culture, our belongings. And this is Dwayne Morrisseau Beck. He was a survivor and an activist. So the 60s Scoop was not a separate tragedy. It was a continuation of residential schools, rebranded through provincial child welfare systems. It maintained the same goal: disconnect, assimilation, and erasure. The tragedy was also intergenerational. Today, Indigenous children...
Sorry, the trauma was...
trauma.
Sorry.
What did I say?
Tragedy.
I mean,
it was a tragedy. What you said wasn't wrong.
It goes... Yeah, I'm just used to... Yeah.
You're doing great.
My mind was elsewhere. It is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
That's where my mind
You're
was
right.
going.
That's why I said sorry. Just one sec. Excuse me.
Today, Indigenous children still make up over 50% of the children in foster care in
That ain't
Canada.
right.
And because of that, we didn't know is no longer an excuse.
It was never an excuse.
No.
It was never an excuse. It was never an excuse. So now we're going to talk about the fight for justice, legal battles, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Survivors did take the lead. So what a fucking burden for survivors. You're abused in your childhood and now you got to go on and fucking fight the battle too. And I hate that. Proud of you guys and thank you for all the activism and work you did that you should have never have had to do. The road to justice was not initiated by the state. It was driven by survivors, elders, and Indigenous leaders, many of whom risked re-traumatization to speak their truth and demand accountability. And as settlers, we should also be demanding accountability. That's why I'm saying follow the money, ask questions. For decades, the Canadian government and churches denied or minimized the abuses at residential schools. Survivors who came forward were often ignored or disbelieved. But starting in the late 1980s and gaining momentum into the 1990s and early 2000s, survivors began to launch lawsuits, form networks, and speak publicly. Yeah, because if the last residential school closed in 1996... the early 2000s, it's gross.
Yeah.
Florence Kafer, who's a former teacher and ally who supported students in testifying, said, "For too long, our truths were treated like whispers, but we know that silence was never safety." One of the first major legal cases was filed in the early 1990s by the survivors of Gordon Residential School, which closed in 1996. These lawsuits alleged physical and sexual abuse by clergy and staff. Over time, more than 10,000 civil claims were filed across Canada, many involving emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Churches, particularly the Catholic, Anglican, United, and Presbyterian denominations, were named in these lawsuits alongside the Canadian government. Phil Fontaine, whose name we've heard earlier in the episode, said, "We love Phil Fontaine. The legal system didn't want to hear us. It was only when we came in numbers that they had to listen." In 2006, the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement happened. This was the largest class action settlement in Canadian history. The IRSSA was signed in 2006 by the federal government, survivor legal representatives, Assembly of First Nations, Inuit representatives, Catholic and Protestant church bodies. And the key components of it, there are 5 of them. The first being that $1.9 billion compensation package for living survivors, that the independent assessment process, or IAP, for claims of sexual or serious physical abuse.
All abuse is serious.
Thank you. $125 million healing fund to support wellness and recovery programs, the creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and a mandate for a formal apology from the Government of Canada.
If it's mandated, does it count?
No. And the Prime Minister who said it was the worst one, too. The formal apology was June 11th, 2008. Prime Minister Stephen Harper delivered an official apology in the House of Commons. I hate to quote the man, but here's what he said. "The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. We are sorry." He could have done better. Boo! Indigenous leaders, survivors, and witnesses were present for the apology. Some accepted it as a long overdue first step. Others viewed it as a symbolic without sufficient systemic change. Which I agree.
Again, I don't have to accept it.
Take your apology, shove it up your ass.
Stuff it.
Honestly, shove it, sit on it, spin around. That's what the boys used to do. Sit on it and spin. Well, now I'm going to say it to them about their fucking apology.
Fist pump.
Yeah. Okay. Cindy Blackstock, who's a First Nations child advocate, said, "You can't apologize while continuing to fight us in court."
I always
Facts.
say...
Why are you even fighting them in court? Just give them what they want.
I always say an apology means...
We can't admit we did anything. We can't. We can't do that. If we admit, it's going to be game over.
But we didn't do it.
That's so fucking typical of a man. That is so typical of a man. No, we can't admit it. We can't admit it.
It didn't do it.
You know, if there were women in charge, you'd be like, we did do that. And I'm sorry that I did do that.
It happened long before this ever happened.
Long before. You know what? If women were in charge, never would have happened. Except for those damn nuns that upheld it. Oh, yeah. They're on another level. But we don't count them. We don't claim them.
That's the religious aspect.
Thank you. That's a whole other topic.
They've been conditioned by religious institutions.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was from 2008 to 2015. And it was a pillar of the IRSSA. It was created to gather... Sorry, I have the hiccups. So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a pillar of the IRSSA, created to gather survivor testimony, educate the public, and lay groundwork for reconciliation. It should still be going.
I agree.
It was chaired by Justice Murray Sinclair, an Anishinaabe judge and the first Indigenous judge in Manitoba. And the mandate of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was to document the history and legacy of residential schools, center survivor voices and collect testimonies, and recommend actions towards meaningful reconciliation. Over 6 years, the TRC collected testimony from 6,750 plus survivors and witnesses, hosted national events, and released 94 calls to action in 2015. Justice Murray Sinclair is quoted as saying, "Reconciliation is not an Indigenous person. It is a Canadian one." And the final report in 2015 declared the residential school system a form of cultural genocide, detailed widespread abuse, death, and neglect, and connected the legacy of residential schools to intergenerational trauma, poverty, overrepresentation in child welfare and prisons, and ongoing systemic racism.
Yeah. Prisons as well, folks. Prisons as well.
Yeah. Yep. And the 94 calls to action, well, and also just like a side note, in recovery, specifically more in like the 12-step programs, they say, the saying is, if you don't get clean, you have 3 options: jails, institutions, and death.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 94 calls to action were organized into categories such as, quick pause. Not a huge advocate for 12-step programs. I only use it as long as I needed to, and then now I don't go to.
I'm not going to out this person because I don't think they're ready to have their name outwardly discussed like this. But I too have a person who is in the process of recovery right now, and they don't agree with the 12-step either. And they were actually doing a meeting the other day that was online, and it was an agnostic program.
Nice.
And they actually were like, they started to read the 12 steps, and they had to stop for a second and be like, this ain't so bad.
But they also said something that I took very seriously was take what you want and leave the rest.
Yes. Yeah.
So anything I didn't like, I was like, well, this will stay here with you, I guess. Okay, so the 94 calls to action were organized into categories such as child welfare, education, language and culture, health, justice, media, museums and archives, sports, business, and reconciliation. As of 2025, less than 20 calls to action have been fully implemented. These calls to action should just be like, yep. Just start knocking them off the list.
They're normal
Knock
things.
them off the fucking list. Employ somebody to fucking do it. Somebody would love to be paid to do something like this. Just employ the person to do it. The burden of the Truth and Reconciliation final report in 2015 said the burden of reconciliation lies with those who benefit from colonialism, not those who suffer under it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's us. That's us. We benefit from colonialism. You know what else we would benefit from more? Like a society, like a matriarchal society. Just crazy.
I think we've said that a few times.
Yeah.
Just, look at
That's just my opinion.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Justice was not handed out. It was fought for and remains unfinished.
It still hasn't been handed out.
That's what I'm saying. The TRC was a starting point, not an ending. It gave Canada a blueprint, but the work remains largely undone. That's why we talk about donating to payyourrent.ca. Some of those people are doing work in these fields. So please donate to payyouvrent.ca if you are feeling emboldened or passionate about this. Reconciliation is an active, ongoing process, not a one-time apology or settlement. And survivors are not the only victims. They are leaders, storytellers, and warriors for truth.
I like that.
Yeah.
Warriors. So, for the most of the 20th century, both the Canadian government and Christian churches involved in the residential school system, again primarily the Catholic, Anglican, United, and Presbyterian denominations, engaged in denial, dismissal, and delay when confronted about the harms caused by these institutions. While survivors, families, and Indigenous leaders spoke out for generations, the official responses were slow, fragmented, and often self-protective. A survivor testimony from the TRC archives said, what was always missing was accountability. They knew, they looked away, and then they buried it. That's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. Just fucking say what you did.
Right? Like there's proof everywhere.
Just say it.
The sky is not pink.
It's not.
2 + 2 doesn't equal pancakes.
Oh, I like pancakes, though.
I do like pancakes. That's not fair to put them in.
I wish 2 + 2 equaled pancakes.
So the federal government, this was their role. They funded, regulated, and oversaw the residential school systems beginning in the 1880s. They did so in partnership with churches, viewing the system as a method of aggressive assimilation. Until the 1990s, the federal government largely refused to acknowledge abuse or take meaningful responsibility. When lawsuits began to rise, the response was logistic and defensive. In court, government lawyers routinely tried to dismiss claims or limit liability. They redacted and withheld documents, especially regarding deaths of children, burial records, and internal memos acknowledging abuse. Now, I'm pretty sure in a lot of cases, they probably weren't able to provide death records or burials because they didn't care enough to document it. No. That's, I think, even worse than hiding it is you can't provide them because you didn't care enough to document them.
Exactly.
This is another quote from Dr. Cindy Blackstock, which awesome name.
Awesome name.
From the First Nations Child Advocate. They fought us every step of the way. They did not want to compensate. They did not want to admit what they had done.
Wow.
On June 11th of 2008, Prime Minister Stephen Harper,
our least favorite,
Val's favorite, absolute favorite, he issued a formal apology to residential school survivors. The government of Canada sincerely apologizes for failing them so profoundly. We're sorry.
Don't care. Shove it, Stephen Harper.
Oh, yeah. The apology marked...
He listens to this. He's like, what the hell? I'm just imagining him being like, what?
He's like sitting in his backyard with like headphones in. And
his granddaughter put it on for him or something. He's like, listen to this. They mention you. Fuck, I hope so. He's like, hi, Stevie.
What up, baby?
Yeah.
The apology marked a turning point, but many saw it as symbolic, not transformative. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree every step of the way.
He was like, Stephen Harper apologizing to Indigenous folks for residential schools is like when a mom makes a big brother apologize to his little sister for hitting her in the face. He's like, sorry.
And then proceeds to hit her again.
Yeah, and then hits her again when his mom isn't looking.
Total on me.
She's like, your father will hear about this.
Tattletale.
And then the dad dies in a car crash and he becomes the man of the house.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? Okay.
So it was symbolic and not transformative because it didn't come with any immediate systemic reform.
He was like, sorry.
What?
Garçon,
oh,
can I get
there.
another ribeye? Thank you.
Look over there. Butterfly.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was like, anyway, so if we can go ahead and sign those billionaire tax breaks into law, that'd be great.
Oh, this giant corporation wants to create extremely expensive housing? like, sure.
No problem. He's like, I got a gig to get to, so if we could wrap this up. My keys are calling my name.
I had dinner with my mistress.
I hate that he's in a band. I hate that.
Oh my God, is he really?
Yes, that's why I'm making this joke. Plays a keyboard or something.
You can't see the face I'm making, but just now. It wasn't a good one.
I'll look it up.
Please do. The government departments continue to fight compensation claims and undermine... Oh my God, is that them?
This is Stephen Harper singing Sweet Child of Mine. You guys can't see, but he's rocking the keys. That's a tough cover for...
I don't think
1
they
out of
quite
10.
nailed it. 1 out of 10. I'm in a
band. I can judge. I can say it.
I'm not even going to rate it. Just it's not even worthy.
It's giving. I wanted the. It's giving. I wanted like the mouse, Sunny Angel, but I got the duck. You know what I mean? That's what it's giving. Him playing the keyboard.
Yeah, it's knockoff Diet Coke.
Knockoff Diet Coke. Yeah, it's cola. Diet Cola in the yellow can.
No name brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No frills because it has no frills. You get it?
Oh, Stephen Harper.
The worst.
So the government departments continue to fight compensation claims and undermine Indigenous children.
If you're saying sorry, just give them what they want.
Right?
And it would, you know what? It's crazy. It would cost the Canadian government less money. It would cost them less money in
Yes.
lawyers' fees if they were just like, you know what? We did fuck up. But there's a bunch of Canadian government people in the government who are like, well, I didn't personally run a residential school, so I don't feel I should have to apologize.
Your government
Too
that
many
you
of
are
those people work in
representing.
the government. I wish you guys could have seen my face with that too.
I've always said, and it's usually when I'm in relationships with I mean, I've only ever been in relationships with men, but it's usually when I'm saying it to a man I'm in a relationship with. An apology is one of two things. Either what I did to you, I didn't realize, like I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a complete mistake that this happened, so it won't happen again. Or I understand that what I did to you has caused you harm in some sort of way. It's hurt you somehow. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it doesn't happen again. This is not a fucking apology.
This is not. This was just like, this is what I said. This was being told to say sorry.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
The survivors noted that the true accountability would mean returning land, reparations.
Land back. Give it back. All of it. I don't care.
Why even
I trust
today?
if we give land back to Indigenous folks, they're still going to let us live on it. I trust that. And if you're worried they're going to do to us what we did to them, you're a part of the problem and you need counseling. And even if some of them wanted that, they should be allowed to have it. You should just give up your house.
Like, why?
You should just give it up.
It is 2025.
Especially if you have more than one house, you should give one up. You should just give that up. Give it to me.
Give it to me. I'll never own a house in this economy.
Never. No.
Anyway.
I don't plan on it. Keep my money in a mattress. Just kidding. Don't find me. Fuck.
It is 2025. Why do they still not have clean drinking water on reserves? It is a basic human fucking necessity and right.
I don't know.
Why are we still fighting for that?
Wasn't that one of the things Trudeau was supposed to finish? That's why I don't like Trudeau either.
And how many fucking terms did he? I mean, he got he was
because as soon as they become prime minister, it gets to their head.
Empty promises.
Empty promises.
Like your boyfriend.
You should dump him. I don't know who needs to hear. I don't wait. Okay, wait.
The
I don't know
Canadian
who
people
needs to hear
did
this
dump
today.
him.
I don't know who needs to hear this today. You're way cuter than him. He doesn't deserve you. And your life is better off without him. And I believe in you. Leave him.
And you have a nice butt.
Your butt is out of this world. Mm-hmm. Astronaut pants.
Astronaut plants.
Okay.
I think I lost my point. No.
Okay.
I found it again.
Okay.
So yeah, survivors noticed that
A true apology would mean returning land, reparations, full access to records, none of which were ever delivered alongside the apology.
So it was just words.
Meaningless words. Now here's the church's response.
Oh, let's get into that.
The Catholic Church, which operated the majority of the residential schools in Canada, they did not issue a formal apology until Pope Francis's visit to Canada in 2022. And do you know why Pope Francis visited Canada? Because they started digging up dead kids at the residential schools.
Sites, yeah. Wow, yeah.
That's
they
why.
Were like, okay.
This looks bad on us.
Yeah, well,
damage control.
Well, now I've been calling my pants down.
Where's our PR?
Yeah. Wow.
Prior to that, responses were marked with deflection and minimal compensation. What Pope Francis did say on July 25th of 2022, we are sorry for the ways in which, regrettably, many Christians supported the colonizing mentality of the powers of oppressed Indigenous peoples.
The powers that oppressed Indigenous people.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
The Catholic entities that were involved in the IRSSA were required to provide $25 million in compensation, but they only delivered a fraction and were later released from their full financial obligations in 2015 due to a controversial court decision.
Fuck them.
I bet after they found all those dead babies, they were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that court decision.
Yeah.
Charlie Angus, who was an MP.
Love Charlie Angus.
He said, if this were any other organization failing to meet its obligations to abuse survivors, there would be outrage.
Yeah. Not enough people are outraged about this.
Mm-hmm. The Anglican Church issued an apology in 1993 and was one of the first religious institutes to do so. Michael Pearce, who was the then primate of the Anglican Church, said, I am sorry. I am more than sorry than I can say. We tried to remake you in our image. This was not just cultural ignorance, it was abuse.
Yeah.
They participated in the IRSSA and have generally been more transparent about its role. The United Church of Canada apologized in 1986 with a second apology in 1998, specifically addressing the role of residential schools.
How come every year every religion isn't doing like a straight up like reparations fucking fundraiser?
Like we have a holiday for this.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that.
Why are they not? Maybe some do. Maybe some do. And I just don't know.
But like half the work is done for you. You just have to.
I don't know about it.
And that's a problem too if it is going on and we don't know about it. Like, come on.
But we're not religious. Who am I? The devil's advocate? I'm not trying to be this way.
We're throwing monkey wrenches into our own thoughts.
Okay.
So yes, in 1998, the United Church apology was, we pray that you will hear the sincerity of our words today and forgive us. I don't know about you. I don't really find sincerity in that.
Give them money and demolish one of your churches and build affordable housing and resources for indigenous actually don't do anything I say. Demolish one of your churches and give that land to like the closest tribe of indigenous peoples geographically and let them do whatever they want with it. Or whoever's land it's meant to be on. We do land acknowledgements. Whoever's land it's on. Whoever's land we're on. Yeah. Just give it to them. Just let them, and whatever they want to do with it, whatever it is. Housing.
It's done.
A community center.
Stay the fuck out of what they're doing. It's not your business.
Whatever.
I like a friendship center.
Yeah.
I like that idea. To this day, they still actively support reconciliation programs and educating efforts. I mean, all right. The Presbyterian Church, they issued an apology in 1994 acknowledging its actions that led to profound harm.
Yeah.
There are persistent gaps and problems with this, though. One, there is a failure to release records, both from government and churches. They have withheld vital records, especially those related to student deaths, burials, and internal knowledge of abuse. And again, I think a lot of it is they didn't care enough to document it.
They didn't care enough to document it, and also they're protecting people's names.
Yeah.
And I hate that. If somebody does something bad, I don't care who they are, their name, fuck their name. Fuck their name, fuck your name.
Brock
fuck
Turner.
Your name, fuck your name. Fuck your name, fuck your name. Thank you. Continue.
I'm just patiently like, this is rocking out to Val's. Fuck, I love you. This has delayed justice and hindered searches for unmarked graves, which are still being discovered. Like we're like that's that.
One was just discovered in Manitoba not that long ago.
We should not, period, be discovering graves.
No.
Of little fucking kids who were ripped away from their parents.
And nuns would have had knowledge of that too, those bitches.
Yeah.
They would have helped you. So, like, groundskeepers there, so many people.
So many people.
Because you know it damn well wasn't priests digging them graves.
And going back to what Val said about the names, I was 10 when the last school.
That's right.
So these people are still alive.
Alive and well.
And they are not taking any responsibility.
There's a really good documentary called Sugarcane, I think.
Ooh.
And they call one of the teachers of the residential schools, and they're like, do you remember me? Like, do you remember abusing me? Blah, blah, blah. And the old person's like, I don't remember nothing about that. Wouldn't talk about that. Alrighty then. And they're like, so you're saying you don't remember whipping me with a belt or something like that? And then they're like, alrighty then. Have a good life. It's like that sort of vibe. Like it's called Sugarcane. It's on Disney.
I just got rid of Disney.
It's maybe called Sugar. Well, I'll give you my login.
I think my sister promised
more for the listener.
Listen, I'm kind of a listener.
That's true.
I'm listening to you talk to me here.
It's called Sugarcane, and it's a documentary, and it's on Disney Plus.
So there were gaps in minimizing language. Even after apologies, many responses included euphemisms like harm was caused rather than direct language, abuse, rape, starvation, genocide.
It's like an underage girl, an underage woman is a child. So when you read that in the news, harm done to an underage woman, that's a child.
There's actually, I was talking to you about this earlier. Mm-hmm. There's a... it's been coming up more in like the true crime community on social media about how using terms like grape, pew pew, SA, unalived denotes what actually happened to these people. And there are some survivors who experience these who are like, it's almost like you're like making it childish, like you're mocking it, like, oh, Cindy was shot with a pew pew.
Yes. And like you said, do you want, sorry, you continue.
No. Go
or do you want me to talk? Oh, I was going to say what you told me earlier. Like you said, that does, the motivation, right? Like they're only speaking that way. They're only speaking that way so that way the content can be monetized. You can say suicide, gun, rape.
But you're not going to get the same reach because they're hiding it.
Exactly.
It's getting buried.
But they're hiding it. And then now you got to think to yourself, is it ethical of me to be sharing these stories at such wide length where I'm using these childlike terms to
appease massive corporations that are sponsoring
so
these platforms.
Can profit off someone else's trauma and tragedy.
Yeah. So it's basically like the corporations that are giving sponsorships and providing funding for platforms like TikTok. And as I'm doing it right now, I just don't want to be sued. TikTok and iTube.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's bullshit. It does minimize what has happened to these people, and that fucks with you too.
But I think it's like sometimes I feel like when you have enough reach, you shouldn't want to. How do I put it? It's because that's the thing. These people aren't journalists. There's no ethics.
Yeah.
There's no ethics or education behind the sharing of information. Yeah. So it's all very uncouth and everybody's trying to true crime is an industry. That's why I make it so clear that currently we're a nonprofit, and a nonprofit to the truest of the extent, nobody gets paid.
Yeah.
Kyle edits for free and gets yelled at sometimes. And I apologize.
I just dump a recording on him and I'm like, have fun.
Yeah, okay, I gotta go.
Shout out to you, Kyle.
Yeah, shout out, Kyle. Okay, continue on.
There was tokenism over action. Public apologies were not followed by adequate funding or support for healing, language revitalizations, or education reform. There are still ongoing legal challenges. As recently as the 2020s, Canada has fought Indigenous children in court over...
Get fucked.
Fighting children. Fighting children over equitable access to child welfare services, such as the Jordan's Principle case. Is it Nigan? Nigan Sinclair from the Anishinaabe professor. He's an Anishinaabe professor and writer. And he says you cannot claim reconciliation while suing survivors.
You can't. Straight up. Straight up.
Spitting facts.
That's honestly like me profiting off this series.
Yeah.
And saying I'm doing something for reconciliation.
So the key takeaways here are that there were apologies when unaccompanied by action, and that and can serve more as... Let me start over again.
Oh, good.
Apologies when unaccompanied by action can serve more to protect reputations than repair harm.
And that's just a good principle of life. Straight up.
Yeah. Dump your boyfriend.
It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
Say. I mean, even in that, J-Beebs had a point. Like,
it wasn't clocking. I get that vibe so hard, like as a customer service person.
Yeah. Why are your prices so high? Dude, I don't
it's
make
not
them.
Clocking. Yeah.
It's not clocking to you.
It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business right now. They're like, the strawberries are $7 up the street. It's not clocking to you. I work with this girl and she says when somebody goes, or somebody makes us think about the price, her response always, cool as a cucumber, she goes, you don't have to buy them.
I love that.
Straight up. And they always like begrudgingly like bring them to the counter and we're like, like you don't, nobody's forcing your hand here.
There isn't a gun to your head.
Yeah, straight up. Like, get out of here. You can go to a grocery store. There's about 100 other fruit stands.
Right. True reconciliation requires truth, transparency, and material change, not just performance. Survivors and Indigenous communities have led this process despite obstructions.
And that brings us to the end of the road to reckoning.
Today, we have looked at how and when residential schools finally began to close and why it wasn't the end of harm. The 60 Scoops showed that the goal of separating Indigenous children from their families didn't just stop with the schools.
We also talked about the fight for justice, the legal challenges, the courage of survivors sharing their truths, and the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
These stories remind us that reckoning isn't a moment in the past. It's ongoing, and it requires listening, accountability, and action.
As settlers, it is our responsibility to learn this history truthfully and to support Indigenous-led efforts for justice and healing.
Next time, we will be talking about the unmarked graves and the ongoing impact, including the discoveries that shocked the country, the work communities are doing to claim their histories, and what meaningful reconciliation can look like.
Thank you for joining us today. Please take care of yourselves, sit with what you've heard, and keep learning.
We will see you in the next episode.